We have a jazzy intro. We are live, I hope. I've got Bob here with me. Thanks for joining me, Bob.
Hey, y'all.
Bob is currently looking to see what we won this week because we both took first in the very first playoff chase contests, and we have no idea actually if there's tickets or whatever. I thought there was something extra. I just read on Discord in one of the other Discords, someone was talking about winning tickets. So Bob's going to check on that. We'll see. But if anything, I won $1,000. He won. You won pro, right? So you won a card.
Yeah, won limited pro. So Pete Alonso beat the Brewers, and that home run put me over the edge. And so I have to buy another bobblehead and got a T3 rare, my first rare win of the season. It only took me till the playoffs to actually get there. So
nice.
I'm pretty excited, man.
Rock on. Good for you. Yeah, that was a bummer last night, huh?
It was.
Sorry.
It was difficult. I mean, listen, that is. I think I said it to somebody. Like, that is the epitome of Brewers baseball. Like, the epitome of it, and I was talking to, I think it was Mookie, and I said, like, listen, Williams has been solid since he came back from injury, but he broke his back in the preseason, and it takes a while to get back, and so they haven't been using him that much on back-to-back days, and you kind of see the wear and tear, and he just wasn't effective yesterday. And I mean, you get Lindor on base, and you get into a lot of trouble, like, no matter what you do. And you leave one out over the plate, you get behind 3-1 on a power hitter, this stuff happens. It happened to be the second home run that Pete hit to right field this season just happened to be yesterday. And I was just like, oh man, like, what are you gonna do? Like, that is, like I said, the epitome of Brewers baseball. Have a great season, can't get out of the playoffs. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, at least it was exciting, and that's the good thing. I keep seeing the stats about, the team that wins the first game has won, the series all 12 times or whatever it is. But like last year, it was exciting. This year, at least, there were exciting games. It's playoff baseball. Like, it looks like playoff baseball, right? It's like teams are emptying out their bullpen. It's Scooble and pitching chaos. Like, it's a bummer for sure. Did you see the John Boy breakdown on Williams tipping his pitches?
No, I did not. I mean, nothing surprised me at this point. But
so I wasn't actually watching the game in part because I canceled my cable early this week, not realizing that I was going to need the cable for playoff baseball. It's like I told my wife, I was like, we'll cancel it. I'm sure there's some stuff we're going to need. Like, we watch a lot of tennis. We obviously watch a lot of baseball. I was like, we'll just figure out like where the gaps are and if we need to, do like YouTube TV or whatever. But like, yeah, because like I had always thought the internet was expensive and the cable was cheap, but it was like $200 for normal cable and then like $40 for internet. I was like, well, that's ridiculous. It's like we don't really watch cable at all almost. So yeah, I canceled it and then immediately regretted it. So I haven't been able to watch, but also my little boy had gymnastics last night. So I was sitting at the gymnastics plates, listening to the game and then watching, I was watching on game day on the app. So like seeing where the pitches were, and it looked to me just like he couldn't locate his fastball, like there were fastballs be way up out of the zone. And so, he's known for the change. And so I was like, well, maybe they were just sitting change, and if Alonso was sitting change, he had it timed up. It was a perfect pitch for that. But no, he was. So one, they showed the video. I've seen those breakdowns before where he kind of breaks down like the, how the angle of the glove or kind of where it's at, and then you can kind of see, on this pitch it looks like this and then it looks like that. And so there's definitely differences in that. Like, he was kind of holding his hand deeper into his glove and kind of popping it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And for the change, needing to get his fingers kind of around it, you could kind of see the difference there. But also he did have a couple clips, and he does the lip reading kind of thing where a couple clips where before Alonso went up to bat, like someone was saying something to him when he came back and was like, I told you. So they knew, they kind of knew what was coming at least. I mean, they still struggled. And that's the thing. I mean, I think he had 2 strikes on everybody, and that's just it's the bummer of it all. It's, it's one, it comes down to one pitch, but it was exciting at least, Chiriot, 2 home runs, like clutch, right? Like, just wild. So yeah, it was good series, and now I guess I'm now cheering for the AL Central teams, and yeah, I'd like to see the Padres advance too. So yeah, it's
I mean, about the pitch tipping, like Devin Williams is effective when he can locate the fastball. He has to use the fastball at the top of the zone to be an effective weapon because the changeup is devastating. When you're up against Devin Williams, like the changeup is coming. Like that is the pitch, like that you just know, and it's such a great changeup that he has to make a mistake. So it's great that you know that it's coming. You know what? I mean, everybody knew that Charlie Huff and Michael Waldron are throwing freaking knuckleballs all the time, and no one can hit it still. The pitch
right.
is still A plus, right? The problem there is that he was tailing the ball high on his fastballs, right? And he left a middle outside changeup that didn't get as much run that it usually does. And that's what happens. Good hitters can extend and hit that pitch. So I mean, the pitch is a mistake, and Alonso made a good swing. It happens. That's baseball. But I mean, goes back to what I said before. Williams on back-to-back days, if he's not completely clicking and that fastball is not working as your setup pitch, it's a lot easier for these guys to sit on one pitch, even if you know what it is. You know what I mean? We know, like we're old enough to remember Mariano Rivera. Everybody knew what he was going to throw, but nobody could hit it. Right. So like tipping pitches is one thing, it's you still have to be able to hit the pitch. And
Yeah.
Alonso made the adjustment and he hadn't been swinging the bat well. And he hit one, and it's just like, hey, that's baseball. Like, what are you gonna do? And now we have a fun series. The Mets are a fun team. Like, no matter how much crap I give Robbie all season, the Mets are they got some good players. I mean, and that comes down to, are you playing guys like Lindor? Are you playing guys like Alonso, Vientos, like Edwin Diaz in this next round of the playoffs? Because we only have 2 games, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what is your strategy going in to this round, Kev?
I wish I knew. So what? I mean, so I took first in champion, so that means I'm going to be locked into trying to do the champion lineup, and so that's going to be constricted by how many new in-season cards I have. So I was just starting. Maybe I should check on what I had for that. I was just starting to look at, all right, what 2024 cards do I have that I can use? So let's switch to that tab and see. Let's scroll this part of the screen. All right, so I mean, my strategies for this is going to be dictated by the cards that I have. So these are probably the best cards that I have. I feel like I have another middle infielder that I can use, but yeah. So I mean, looking at the other thing I was looking at was the projected rotations, like who we're going to be seeing for that, and so yeah. So I mean, let's bring that up too.
So do you, with this team, Kev?
Yeah.
Do you go out and say, you know what? I can win champion, right? But do you use the strategy that I used last week and say, you know what? Let's go buy a Garrett Cole, old season. Let's go buy a Wheeler, old season. I know both of them are pitching, and the odds of a hitter over 2 games of getting 30 is considerably lower than a Garrett Cole or a Wheeler in the playoffs getting 30 in the 1 game that they play, right? Because like my strategy for this week is I'm doubling up pitchers. There's only 2 games. Like I actually went out, spent like $12 on a Garrett Cole because, like you said, we're kind of like locked in at this point,
Yeah. Well, and that's going to be the, that's the toss up. When I was thinking about that, I know that it come up, kind of prior to lock last week. Someone had asked, I mean, does it make sense to go all with all starting pitchers, in flex, and if you can in the relief pitcher spot? And obviously, like that worked out well for me. I had Michael King in my reliever spot, and he put up 50 points, so that helps. So I'm kind of 2 minds on this though. Because I do think, in part, I was in first, and I probably would have won first even without Pete Alonso hitting that home run. I think I would have podiumed in both rares if Devin Williams had saved that game. So like I think everyone with their Alonzos passed me in Rare Pro. But if Devin Williams had gotten that save, I think I would have jumped into like third for Rare Pro. But on that one especially, I had a couple guys with zeros. I had Gunner and I don't know, Altuve or someone else with a zero. And so with only 2 games and with kind of a scoring down somewhat usually in the playoffs, I think there is an argument for going all batters as much as you can, because you want to try and hit the Chourio, because he put up a 60 or 60 or 70 points. And so if you're going to get 2 zeros out of your bats, but maybe you're going to get a 50 and a 60 out of, say, Lindor. Say the Mets score a bunch of runs, say Lindor and Alonso go off. But also it might be, Lindor and Vientos that go off, and so to kind of maximize, your kind of dice rolls, which I think is a little bit more important here. That's the other part of it. And then, the flip side of that is I'm in first right now, and I actually did put up a pretty good score despite the fact that it was pretty low scoring. I think it was like 270 or something like that. So that's a score that'll probably play. So, do I want to kind of stay safe now? And so, doing 3 pitchers, if I think I might have a Matthew Boyd relief pitcher that I could play. So, if I go Reagans, Boyd, and, Wheeler or something like that, that builds a pretty good base where, it kind of keeps me in the running and gives me a good shot to stay at the top of the leaderboard for the chase. So I can see arguments both ways. I think for sure, if I was only playing for 1 week, I would probably go with more bats if I could. Now, if I have Wheeler and if I got Reagans, and I've got a reliever that's starting that I can play, and I don't have, a bunch of bats that have a good chance of going off. I do think, someone like Chourio, someone like maybe Alec Boehm or Josh Naylor, maybe. I think that's around the cutoff for me where I would feel comfortable saying this is a guy that could hit 2 home runs easily, in 2 games. So I think that's what I'd be looking at, but if I'm looking at playing like, Jose Iglesias or something like that, I think I'd rather play Wheeler than him.
Okay. Yeah. I hear
you.
And I'm going full pitching, like just full. Nice. It doesn't. I'm playing the odds. Like, this is a mathematical thing, right? Like, and it comes right down to teams that had Gunner and teams that had Kyle Tucker obviously didn't do well last week, but I had both of those guys, I think, in my champion team or something like that. And I played Reagans and Scooble, who actually put me over the top. Right. Yeah. So, and that's a Hale's fan point. Like, 3 starting pitchers with Judge and Ohtani is really, really strong.
Yeah. That's not bad.
Christopher Sanchez. Like, I'm actually looking at Christopher Sanchez right now as a potential pickup. Right. He's $4, dude. Like,
yeah.
And that's the old season card. So you would have to, that's the new season card. And so the problem is you have to find the old season card and or is Ranger Suarez or whomever it may be. But you got to really look at who's actually pitching. And it's not always, it's clear cut, right? And I know a lot of pitching rotations haven't even been set at this point. So,
yeah. And that's what I had started looking at. And just as a, just to kind of show how I go about it, I was going to go through one of these. I actually started with the Tigers at Guardians, but someone in the Discord had asked, where do you look for, probable pitchers and kind of, what do you look at? And so, typically I think we maybe did this last week or one of the prior streams, but, I'll look at, someone's history against a team. So, so I went and looked. So for the Tigers, so these are not confirmed. The only confirmed ones for this series are Bibee so far. But if Olson's pitching the first game, here's his splits, and I do OPS plus for this, which is just a kind of, it's an easy to compare kind of number for people. Just this is how well batters were hitting kind of versus league average against him. So righties, it was 60, which is well below average. 100 is average, and then 99 is right around average. So lefties were hitting him just about league average. So that's not bad. And then, specifically against the Guardians, I think it was 2 games against the Guardians, which is great. And then 1 game at Progressive, which was phenomenal. I think he went, I don't know, maybe 6 innings with like 4 hits, no walks, so that's what I look at. I use Baseball Reference for that. Typically, I like the way that they kind of display splits. I think there's a bunch of sites, and I know Robbie had posted too, if you want to look at specific batter versus pitcher matchups. I think that's on Baseball Savant. That tends to be, because the sample size is so small, I know that tends to be less useful, or just, the sample's not big enough, I think, typically for hitters, but I think I think for pitchers it can be just the way that the kind of like the pitch level type stuff gives them a little bit more predictive value. What was that?
With all of that info that you kind of go through there when you're picking your starting pitchers, because we only have 8 teams playing, are you purposefully avoiding putting batters in with your pitchers? So are you stacking specific teams? And the reason I ask is because I think I have 4 pitchers this week. I have Rodon and Cole, Reagans, and Wheeler. So in my thought process is, well, I don't want to play Bobby Witt against both of my Yankees pitchers. So that means I kind of have to, because I'm clearly using Bobby Witt in a lineup, right? So that means that I'm basically stacking Cole and Rodon because I'm going 2 pitchers. And so that pushes Witt to another lineup. But because in that Witt lineup, I have Cole Reagans, I'm probably going to pile that up with, Lucas Erceg, who's been on fire lately. But I can't put Judge and Soto in that too. So I'm kind of like playing like a jigsaw puzzle to match all these guys up. And same with Wheeler, like I can't play Lindor, I can't play Alonso, because playoffs pitching is really on point. Like these guys are focused, and hitters, unless you're Jackson Chourio, don't typically hit and go nuts. Although the Phillies did prove that different a few years back. The Phillies, like you hit a Schwarber bomb to start out a game, and it could be all over at that point. So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I'm setting things up, though. I'm doing matchup specific pieces right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, typically, that's how I set lineups. Yeah. There's going to be that kind of correlation, right? Like if, Wheeler has a good game, that means the Mets bats probably aren't. But, our options are so limited now in the playoffs. And again, it kind of depends on what your goal is for a game week. I think if you're looking for something more safe, I'm probably going to be more comfortable playing just kind of who I think is going to do the best regardless. I think there's going to be a chance, because it's going to get wacky. It's going to be, I keep saying this, but like there's going to be a Jorge Soler or Eddie Rosario, or a guy that is not in the chalk lineups that is gonna go wild. And so so you can, if Wheeler has a bad game, and gets knocked down and only puts up a 10, that might also mean that Alonso and Lindor both hit home runs. And so, there's a little bit of that too. So I think I will probably just be playing whoever I think is best, regardless of the matchup. I do think about it more, I think, with relief pitchers. If I'm looking at a series and saying, well, Wheeler and Nola, if I don't trust Nola necessarily, but Wheeler I do, and I'm not sure how either of them have fared against the Mets this year. So that's something that I'll look at. But if they have both just owned the Mets this year, it's something where you got to look at, well, is it going to be a high scoring series or not? So you kind of look at the betting lines and see what the over unders are and all of that. And if it's not, it's harder to play, Juan Diaz for sure. Cause if he'll get in if it's a close game. So there is that,
right.
So there's that aspect, but, and my limited lineups last week, I played a lot of Tanner Scott, who didn't get in the first game, but he did in the second. But I'm a lot more comfortable, I think, playing leverage relievers as well. So Jeff Hoffman is probably going to be a good play. He's going to get in as long as the game is close. Even Matt Strahm maybe, because he's been in that similar role where they trust him in the high leverage spots. So there's that. If it looks like there's not going to be save opportunities or a reliever might not get in. That wasn't as much of an issue last game week just because Diaz and Iglesias, who are two of my stronger relievers, had just pitched, like 3 or 4 days so that they could, actually get into the playoffs. So there's less of an issue there. But yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. That's the moral of the story in terms of, if you're building a lineup around Witt, you kind of, and you want to win, if everything goes right for you, it's going to be Urseg, it's going to be Reagans, it's going to be Witt, and so you kind of want to maybe stay away from the Yankees, and you're kind of rolling the dice on the Yankees not doing well, right? Like maybe the pitchers don't have it and all that. So there's that. That one is at Yankee Stadium for what it's worth. The Royals were, I don't know what, juju they had this year, but I know for a large part of the year, they hit like almost twice as well at home as they did away. Now, whether it's just comfortable, they see the ball better there, or they're cheating or what, like it could be anything. It could just be dumb luck. Who knows? But, and the Orioles series wasn't high scoring. I mean, they won, but it was, was it 1-0 the first game and then like a couple runs in the second? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they haven't been scoring. And I mean, going back to your point on relief pitchers, you're talking about your leverage guys and trying to maximize where you go. Like, I think that if you're not going with a starting pitcher in the RP slot for this 2-game series, I think that Clase is far and above the best pitcher to have, because Clase is used if the game is close. Like, the Guardians have absolutely no issue putting him out there if they think that they can get within reach, or if it's tied, like they'll throw him in there no matter what. So I mean, that's where I'm leaning. And so part of my issue with that though too, Kev, is that after the weeks that we had last week, after the week that I had with winning pro, does that push me more towards, hey, let's try to win the pro special edition card and be in the top 25? Or do I go back to try to focus on winning champion, right? Like I'm torn, because it comes down to a couple of decisions. Like, we've been talking about Lindor and how he does against Nola and how he does against Wheeler. But there are a handful of strong middle infielders this week. It's a matter of which ones are you using and where are you projecting them to go and who are you prioritizing? Because when I look at it, I look at Betts, Witt, Lindor, Trey Turner. Like, those are the first 3 to come to mind right away. 3, 4. I can't even count good, but count well for all you teachers out there. But I don't know where to go. So I'm really excited when we get our projections out to actually see where things are going to project. Because again, like I'm in this position right now where to me, cash is still king. So I still am going to put my best team in champion. So what that means for me, Kev, is I'm loading up my Yankees bats. I'm loading up my Dodgers bats. So what that means is obviously Shohei, Betts, Soto, and Judge. And then I'm letting my pitchers run in that kind of setup, right? But I don't know. I'm really struggling to get a read on what I want to do with that pro team, honestly, because Witt has been an automatic add every single time. Yeah. But to your point, they don't hit nearly as well in Yankee Stadium. Garrett Cole is going to be pinpoint on. Like, is there a role in which I sit Bobby Witt and I play a Trey Turner against who I don't think is a great Mets pitching staff, right? Or do I, instead of Trey Turner or Witt, do I go elsewhere with it? Obviously I'm already using Betts, but like, do I go Lindor against?
I was going to say, I mean, the heater that Lindor is on right now, I have trouble not playing him. I mean, whether it's seeing the ball well or just feeling it or whatever,
and we saw it yesterday too. Like the Mets, like the Brewers pitched really well. Like Myers was great. Yeah. They pitched great, but Lindor had the only 2 hits of the game. He had a stolen base. Like, he did the things that score you points and so rare, like outside of home runs and stuff like that. And so I'm constantly looking at that balance between who can steal, who can get on base, who can do these things. And like, as I do the calculations, I always think that of all of these teams, the guys that can explode, I think the Dodgers can explode. Obviously, I think it's hard not to explode when you lead off with Shohei. Then you have Mookie right there, and then your murderer's row of people even behind them. But I also know that I've watched the Phillies enough, and shout out to McGee and all of our Phillies fans out here, and Eagles fan. Like Schwarber hits a home run to start off the series, and it's like that could be a 14-2 kind of game. Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
so the Phillies bats took them to the World Series a couple years ago, and they're a team that I actually have really marked on my calendar to watch every single game as this is coming up here.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what the projections are because I simply don't know at the middle infield position right now. I think that the outfield position is a little more locked in if you have studs. I don't know how you set an Aaron Judge sort of thing. You know what I mean? But
Well, what if you don't have Aaron Judge or
right,
Shohei Ohtani, which is what
exactly.
I'm looking at, which is
Which
what
way
I'm
are we
looking
going?
for
Like
rare.
Jazz
So,
Chisholm. I love Jazz Chisholm.
oh, Jazz.
I'm
Yeah.
a Yankees fan, right? But I love guys like Jazz. Like he's just absolutely fantastic, And Padres are hitting the ball well. You got a Jackson Merrill. I have no issue starting a Jackson Merrill. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just kind of a wild game. And what I'm looking for here, I'm looking for guys that hit at the top of the lineup. I'm looking for guys that can have some pop. But I also want guys on base that can steal, which is why Jackson Merrill is so interesting to me, which is why Lindor really peaks things for me here too. I don't know how many bases Trace Turner stole, but I don't feel like he has been as active on the base paths this year. But of course, I could very easily be wrong. So I don't know. There's a lot of reconfiguring that I'm going to need to do, and who knows? Maybe I win another Shohei when the rewards actually come out and
Right.
go from there. I amazingly sold a Shohei yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
I sold it and I immediately spent it on soccer guys that got hurt. So
Nice.
Yep.
Well, that's good stuff. But yeah, so we looked at my my champ lineup for rare, a little bit ago. But yeah, I mean, I've got Tatis, so I mean, I think he's easily going to be the outfielder that I play.
Yep.
I think probably Alonso because I've got a new season for him, so I might go Alonso and Lindor. I don't have a 24 Lindor, but maybe that'll be one of the classic cards and kind of go
you just
from
won
there.
$1,000, dude. Like you can do whatever you want.
I know, and part of me is like
brain.
slow down that, but like NBA is coming up. I'm also trying to I've actually started withdrawing money because I was like, at some point I'm going to feel bad if I don't ever take any of this money out. So I've got at this point I'm always complaining about I have too many cards, right? I do have too many cards. So it's probably time to start reducing that. So, and I think this winter I will probably I might give away some of my collections, even just do some giveaways over the off season, just to try and narrow it down. I do love the buying and the selling and all of that, but that if I can just get rid of some of my collections, it gives me, new stuff to focus on for next season. So we'll see. But yeah,
what, Kev? You won $1,000, you pay a little bit of money, and maybe you win 1,000 more. You could snowball this. This is what we talk about. It's the snowball effect. This is what I did to start off Silver MLB. I bought a bunch of super rares to start off when Silver MLB came out. And there weren't a lot of people playing super rare at that time. And within the first 2 or 3 weeks, I won a Trey Turner, and that Trey Turner super rare win was massive. And that just snowballed everything. It led to a Shohei. It led to a Soto. It led to a Bobby Witt. It led to all of these wins that made my gallery absolutely bananas. And I didn't pay the money to actually get these things in. So you're good at this game. I mean, you're running the projections here. You know what's going on. I am all for the gamble of it. I want to see Kev do this. Go on it and just keep pulling in $1,000 every week, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it'll probably be I'll pull out 500 and leave 500 in there, and go from there. But yeah, we'll see. Unless I find, if I don't actually pull it out today, it'll probably be gone by the end of the weekend. So yeah, but again, that's what I was kind of doing when I started just going through. I was like, all right, who could I play with who I have now, and what gaps might I fill? But yeah, part of it is going to be figuring out what matchups I like. And like you said, the projections, once we're done here, I'm going to get started, see what's out there, what's been projected already now that we're, the matchups are set and we're starting to see the pitchers come out. And I just, the list that I've got here, it's just, the official ones. And then think I looked at Fantasy Pros and RotoWire to see who they had,
Yep.
and then typically like beat writers will have a little bit of a better idea. And so I know someone had said it's more likely to be Boyd than Williams, even though Williams is the one that a lot of sites have for the Guardians. But yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see with the projections. I'm glad that we'll actually have some time to run the projections. Before the last one, it was tough. I was like, we had like 12 hours to do it, and I'm waiting for the pictures to get updated, and Bad X had some but not other ones, and it was fun trying to figure out how to do that best. Obviously it worked out pretty well for all of us. You and I both ended up on a podium. I know a bunch of other FP guys did. I think I saw Hagel. I think who else was on there? Lasso Loons. Just a number of FP guys doing well. So it's good to see. I'm pretty sure I saw Kika complaining about getting knocked off the podium, or maybe that was Hagel. I mean, he might have got knocked down, so it'll be good to see kind of a fully kind of fleshed out projection this week for sure. We should have everyone, and hopefully we'll have at least the pitchers for the first 2 games by tomorrow morning. So so that's a good sign. But that's the
keep an eye. There's 2 games on Monday, and I always worry about rain in New York City, so that's something to keep an eye on. Look at the weather. Make sure you guys check out Hunter's newsletter when it comes down to a weather forecast. It's Reagan's and what is it, Rodon, I think. So like that could completely kill my whole entire strategy, Kev, if that game gets out. So these are the risks that we run, and we know that, right? So,
but and that is going to be the balance. And like I said, I think I'm more inclined to play it a little bit safer, just because I've at least for now I've got a pretty good number up there for the first week. So it might be something where maybe I shy away from Reagan's and go with someone else. But I mean, I just going through kind of who I'm seeing there, I'd be comfortable with Reese Olson. I'd be comfortable with Tanner Bybee. I think I like Matt Boyd and Gavin Williams. I mean, obviously Skubal is if you can pick one pitcher from that matchup, I'm going with Skubal. I think Cole and Reagan's for the Yankees Royals series, but Waka and Rodon are good. And Mookie's asking who's a good value at SP. So I'm, without having checked the prices, but I mean, Peterson has looked really, really good lately. I mean, he's someone that I always kind of liked, but I think, what is he? I think he's like a really good slider guy. And then the four seam comes and goes or something, or vice versa. But Wheeler's the stud in Mets Phillies, but Peterson, Nola or Sanchez are all usable guys. And I think someone had asked before, about like Cease and some of those guys. I'd be all right. Honestly, there's no one here that I hate. I'm good with Cease. I'm good with Yamamoto, Darvish, and Flaherty too. So, it's really just kind of figuring out, I think, for this week, how much value you're looking for. But, I mean, if you don't have any pitchers, I'd be comfortable just taking whoever's cheapest, versus, I mean, if Waka's $20 for a rare and Cole is 40, I'd probably go with Cole. But if it's, Waka's 20 and Rodon is 30, I might be more comfortable with Waka. But Reagan's for sure is a guy that I like, that I've liked all season. But and he's a lefty, which bodes fairly well. You're not looking at as much trouble from Soto and Jazz. But so for game week 3, I wish I knew. I mean, so I just started looking at the rotations this morning, and it's coming in kind of who's going to be pitching, but it's going to be super dependent on the way that the dates shake out, who can go when, and all of that. And so it's going to be hard to say Mookie's worried that he's running out of pitching. Yeah, I mean it's always going to feel that way. Honestly, I think if you don't already have the studs and you're not kind of in a position where you kind of want to spend to try and have a shot at staying on top of the leaderboard, I think playing it by ear is fine. I don't market wise, I don't think the market is crazy right now. It's something where there's a lot more cards out there. I mean, every year we're adding more cards to the supply, and so there's just not as much kind of constraint on the supply right now. I think a lot of people kind of came into this saying, well, I'm going to sell my playoff cards into the playoffs. But if everyone does that, there's not much of a spike from that. So I think I'd be comfortable just kind of waiting it out if I didn't have cards for, game 3. You can certainly look ahead. And that's something that maybe we'll try and take a look at over the weekend and see, all right, here's how it shakes out. As after the first games are done, kind of check and see what it looks like the series are going to be. Because this game week's a little more straightforward. It's just 2 games for everyone, but the next one's going to be weird because if a series is 2-0, that means there might only be 1 game, after that, or some may go 3, and so it's going to be all those tough decisions of do I play someone that I think where the series is going to go all 5, or do I play Aaron Judge if they've if they're looking to sweep the Royals or something like that. So
Yep.
it'll be interesting to try and make those decisions, but yeah, in terms of pitching, I think you'll probably be able to fill out your lineup. If there's a great play, that one might get bought up. But like I said, I honestly don't think anyone here is so much better than anyone else, or so much worse than anyone else that that you couldn't get away with pitching any of the starters we're looking at right now. I mean, and certainly some of them will suck. Someone will only go 2 innings, but if that's, you're just not going to know if it's going to be Tanner Bybee or Rodon or Aaron Nola. So, when you're facing a situation like that, I just wouldn't, unless you feel really, really good about a guy, I wouldn't go out of my way to, pick someone over another. But yeah, so that's how I'm feeling. And I guess, Bob's back, but yeah, I basically was just talking about, I'm be comfortable pitching almost anyone as the start.
To that point, Kev, like I went out and I bought a Garrett Cole because I have a Yankees collection, right? And I didn't have him, and he was pretty much as low as he's going to be. So I went out and I bought him. And so to Kevin's point though, like you can pretty much start anybody. Like offense does dip in the playoffs. Like these guys, these pitchers, they're not out there on like a random Tuesday throwing their game and getting battered around. Like these guys are laser focused at this point, and like you can actually see a decrease in runs scored in the playoffs. And so I have no issue starting any of these guys. I expect pitching to be heavy. As far as this stuff goes, you have to find the one team that is able to explode in a lot of cases. And on that note, part of the longer term strategy with this is figure out which competition you should be in. Because I am of the opinion that if you are trying to win or podium in these, you have to pick one as opposed to the other. Because I think that the World Series, with a potential 7-game series, and they have the entire thing in there,
Yeah,
leads us to a much higher score. You're going to need to do well in there. And so that's a very tough piece. Like basically we're getting narrowed down who your competitors could be. So like if you're down, 200 points right now in any one competition, you're not out of it because a lot of people will not buy the more cards to keep getting in and keep playing and I can keep putting more money in and feeding it. So there's always a chance that you're going to have the cards, you're going to be able to push through and just be patient when it comes to these things. And like to Kev's point earlier, like I didn't do great in champion. Yeah, I still came in the money, but I know that I have the cards to stand. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to keep pushing towards that because the rewards are so great. But I want you guys to keep that in mind. Like you don't have to go out and buy random stuff. If you have the guys, use the guys. Like that's really the way it's going to go. But be ready and be focused on which one is the most important to you as to where you're going, right? So, and part of that's going to come down to like what competition you did best in this week, where you feel the strongest. And so there's going to be a lot of strategy. that comes into Monday, we're going to have to really check that thing out, because that opens up the opportunity for, if you use a game 3 starting pitcher, there's a chance that they can come in and get a hold like Freddie Peralta did yesterday in game 5. So like anything's possible with this kind of stuff. And that does screw up the leaderboards. Like we're getting to the point now where teams are going to use their best pitchers multiple times if they have to in a series. So
Yep.
Hey, Squeaky, congrats on the tier 3.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
It's
Absolutely
always
fabulous.
exciting. We have no idea when we're actually going to get rewards this week, but that's fine. One thing I wanted to add, if you're not, a Discord frequenter, whether ours or the official one or one of the other ones that focuses on this, right now you can swap all of your common cards. It resets every minute. And so if you want to swap out, anyone that's not in the playoffs right now, it's something you can do. It sounds like it's intentional, or maybe it wasn't, but now they're going to make it that. But yeah, just a heads up, if you want to start messing around with your common lineups, it sounds like you can do that. The other important thing, if you weren't one of the people affected by this, we've been tracking lister play, which was not active for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so, once your lineup was set, you could list a card without it killing your lineup. That changed about a week ago. And that includes swapping out common cards. So a number of people, once, the Astros were eliminated, I think, started swapping out their Astros, and then their lineup got killed. And so something to be aware of, if you hadn't seen anything about that yet as well, is you can swap all your cards for free right now, but once the lineup locks, do not swap cards until the game week is over. Otherwise, it's going to kill your lineup. So that's our public service announcement for today.
Have I just tried? I was only able to do one card swap.
Well, give it a minute. So there was a timer on it, and it's counting down. It's literally 60 seconds. And so,
okay. Oh yeah, look at that! Fantastic. I should probably look at the details, right?
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, every 60 seconds you can do it. Although I guess the other thing we should talk about is what's happening with coins, because that's likely going to change, training and all of that. And so, if you haven't seen anything about it yet, in soccer, they just recently said, hey, we're going to get rid of coins. We're going to have like a blowout. And so whatever coins you have, you can spend it on merch. I haven't actually looked at, what it is, if it's like you buy raffle tickets to try and win stuff, or if it's, you're going to be able to actually like buy stuff. I think my preference would probably be raffles versus not, just because it gives everyone a shot at it. But they did say something similar was coming for MLB and NBA. I think they said NBA is not even going to have coins this year. And then MLB, it's going to be similar, where they're going to be done with them at the end of the season. So yeah, I think, at this point, just use them for as many boosts as you want to do. I guess if if you're not competing, in the chase, maybe, save them to put in for whatever they do at the end of the season. But yeah, it's definitely not time to be saving your coins anymore.
This is so much fun, man. Swapping cards?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Man, I'm just going to town. Fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. And I'd mostly been focused on doing that. Whenever I remembered, I'd, go in and swap, for playoff teams. So it's mostly already guys that I had, but yeah, now it's, getting rid of Gunnar and Kyle Tucker and all of that.
So who'd you get for them? Like, what cards did you swap?
I got Lindor. I think I traded Matt Olson for Alonso.
Mm-hmm.
Gunnar might have been Lindor, Tucker, Schwarber. I think I got Schwarber for Tucker.
Gotcha.
So, not terrible, but yeah. So, and I think it must have been Acuna that I traded early on that I got Gunnar for. And I think I think the choice was between Witt or Gunnar, and I went with Gunnar. I mean, he was still just super hot earlier in the season, but probably would have been better to take Witt. Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, so that's what we're looking at for coins. Are there any other news updates we need to cover or check in about?
No, not really. I mean, the coins are going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what they offer on our end and what the costs are going to be. The costs are pretty high on the football side of things. So like I can't even afford a lot of the stuff. I'm basically going for like so rare hoodies. So
Yeah.
essentially you buy tickets to a raffle is what it
Okay.
really comes down to in a lot of places. So
Yeah. And so it's like more expensive to buy a ticket for the coolest stuff. Is that?
yeah, so like in the football side, there are signed jerseys, like mystery signed jerseys, and they cost a
Yeah.
ton of coins to go through. So basically, like the whales that have been saving up millions and millions of
Right.
coins will have a really good chance of getting these kind of things. So,
Yeah.
but it still comes down to raffle. You only need one to win,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That'll
I mean,
that'll be
kind
interesting.
of
Yeah. Because I think
let
we
it fly.
talked about this. Yeah. I think we talked about this last week, but like I usually end up carrying like 15,000 coins or something like that. And
Yep.
typically I would just boost all of the limiteds I could every game week.
Mm-hmm.
And with the lineups I was playing, usually it just kind of refilled itself, and the goal was just to have enough to boost my rare lineups in the playoffs too. So
Yep.
so yeah, so but yeah, I mean, if I hadn't been boosting anything, I think I'd probably have 100,000 coins or something like that, and I'm sure some people have been saving them. So it'll be interesting to see if some of those folks are able to kind of do something with those, which will be good. So our hoodies are pretty nice, says Mookie. That's pretty awesome. Two things. So one, training. So like I also spent a bunch of my coins on training. And so it looked like in soccer, everyone's just going to have the same amount of training lineups instead of like buying extras. And it sounded like they were going to refund if you had bought bonus training lineups, but maybe not like forever, but like if you bought them recently. So I don't know how that's going to play out here. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was we finally have stuff to give away now. Yeah, so of course it got as messy as possible with with that giveaway where we looked at where things were at in terms of projecting who was going to go to the playoffs, and it looked like it was going to come down to either the Mets or the Braves. And then we all saw what happened there. It was the Tigers and both the Mets and the Braves, and not the D-backs. Mookie did correctly predict that the Tigers were going to go. And so I don't know, Bob, if you're okay with it, I think that makes sense to me for him to be the official winner.
Cool. Mookie,
Yeah.
just DM me on Discord. We already talk to each other all the time there. So just DM me your whatever address you want me to send it to, and I'll ship it right to you, man. Congratulations, Boo.
Rock on. That is awesome. And for everybody else, I'm going to put together a couple packages of So Rare shirts and hats and stickers and send those out. So I'll do some sort of randomizer with everyone that either commented on a YouTube video or made the predictions. Mookie says, sorry about the Twins. Yeah, that was, I think I talked about the deep depression I was going to go into if Mookie's prediction was right. But yeah, so I'll do a randomizer to get that other stuff out. And then the other cool thing that I wanted to announce is we are going to, I think I'm going to make FP shirts and give those away. Some as a giveaway, but also don't go into a depression. I'm doing fine, Mookie. But yeah, so the plan is to do an annual subscription, so $100 for the year. So instead of the $10 a month, make it $100 and give you a free T-shirt. And so that way, sometimes people kind of unsubscribe during the winter and then start up again. And so we're like, well, maybe we should do a discount so people stay. And we really, really want to keep doing off-season content. And so this is kind of a way to support that. So yeah, so I'll put out some official information soon, but I'm going to price out, getting some shirts made and all of that. And I think it'll just be that basic FP logo that's up in the top corner, but a nice T-shirt, and it'll be free, so you can show off to all your friends your favorite niche fantasy baseball podcast. So, and we'll make a special sweater for Bob.
Oh, yes. As long as it's like Oakland A's green, would be fantastic, man.
I
Let's fix tears.
I
Yes.
will definitely make a please fix tears thanks version as well. We'll send that one to John and Everett.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the off season. I'm looking forward to to starting to get some stuff together. I kind of want to do like team and division previews. So I figure Bob will be doing the A's for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, I think if we can get that stuff out in the next, just over the course of the next few months, just kind of do an episode touching on a few teams at a time. And maybe paywall some of that stuff. I'm not sure. I would definitely want to make it something where, the folks that are subscribing and all of that, are getting a lot more benefit from this. So we'll do some public stuff and maybe do some of the more intensive stuff back behind the scenes. I talked to Captain No Sweat earlier this week as well. So we're starting to make plans for the app and what we're going to be working on and the data that we're going to have. So it's pretty exciting. So to confirm, we're not going to be doing NBA. We would have to rewrite the entire app because all the API changes, which is essentially what Captain No Sweat did during the season this year when everything changed for baseball to keep it up and running. It was, literally, I think like 100 hours of work he put in to keep the app above water while Sower made all the changes. So it would be doing the same for NBA. I'm going to try and see if maybe there's a way to convert it so we're not starting from scratch now that the API stuff is consistent across the sports. If it's something where either AI or we can pay someone just on a contract basis to convert it, if that's not going to be too expensive. Maybe do it for NBA where you could just import. I'm definitely not going to be doing my own projections again just because of the time and all of that and whatnot. But if it's possible, we'd like to make it so that if you have your own, if you're pulling in, NBA Jet or Top Tier or Soar Edge, if you've got those spreadsheets, we can make it so that, as long as the columns are the same every week, it'll be easy to pull that in if we can easily get the app doing that. Captain No Sweat's answer is no, we cannot. I think he's going to have enough on his plate just kind of prepping things for next season. But like I said, if it's something where we can do it easily and it won't be something that Captain No Sweat has to do, but something that either I can figure out how to do or whatever to convert it, we will. But we're also going to have a lot more data stuff, which I'm super excited about, being able to look at people's performance and like how many wins, what card, how many cards you've won, lineups and all of that. And so I'm looking forward to doing that stuff in the off season too. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. It's good times.
Awesome. Can't wait, man. Can't
all
wait.
Right.
It's gonna be fun. This week's gonna be intense, guys. 2 games. Ask all the questions. We're here. We don't have lock until tomorrow. What's it, afternoon, Kev? So ask away. Discord's gonna be busy. So good luck to everybody on the chase. Good luck to everybody moving forward. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Good luck. And if you missed the beginning, I should have projections. I'm going to work on them right after this, see what's up. And so I'll post whatever I can. And then as more information comes in, we'll have something, probably the next one, not till tomorrow morning. But that'll be the goal. Any hints that's what's coming for the app? Just mostly improving what's there. To some degree, it's trying to get a lot of the stuff that I still use Solar data for, trying to get that onto the app. So especially the price stuff. Captain No Sweat's building that database. I think it's there, and so he's got it kind of ready, and I'll be able to start digging into that and then figuring out. Right now I think he was pulling in like the rolling averages. If you click on a player when you're doing the lineups. It'll show like rolling 50 and 100, I think, plate appearances, things like that. So being able to do more with that stuff. And so the the stuff that I personally look at, we'll start getting some feedback from folks. So I mean, I think the initial round will be kind of the things that we identified to put in there, but a lot of that is just going to be, if I can get it onto a spreadsheet, Captain, it's no problem to get it into the app. And so, it'll be kind of figuring out what data we want to use. It'll probably, I know WOBA is a big one. I think that correlated well, but I'm going to play around with that too and see, because that's not going to take into account steals. And so figuring out a formula to kind of balance, steals and WOBA to kind of consistently see what's kind of predictive. So yeah, so it's just going to be having more access to more data, access to more pricing stuff. And then, it's also going to be kind of updating the spreadsheets, probably starting some over from scratch and kind of taking the bones of it. So it's a little bit cleaner. And having as much of that in the app as possible. So yeah, it's one of those things where I think we want it to be both simple so you can pick it up and use it. But if you want to dig more deeply, because I mean, like I said, I'm always going to Baseball Reference or Fangraphs to check out, max EVs, and we'll be able to put in data that just isn't typically publicly available. So, a big one is like 90th percentile exit velocity. You see average exit velocity and you see max EV, but like 90th percentile is, I think, a lot better than max EV, because it's like when you're consistently hitting the ball hard, like what is it, as opposed to, did you just get lucky on one pitch and you hit it 112, but your next highest one was 104. Like that's different than if you hit 112, but like you've got 30 more that also went 110. It's a little bit more useful that way. So it'll be fun to start digging into that stuff, pulling some of that data directly from MLB. And like I said, once I can get into a spreadsheet, we can get it so Captain No Sweat can figure out how to implement it in there. So yeah, that's what we're doing. But yeah, I'll have projections coming up. If there's anything, exciting that we need to add, we'll maybe do another stream, but if not, plan to talk to everybody next week. Thanks, Bob, for doing this. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Kev. Congratulations, man, on the big win.
Thank you.
Right.
Congratulations to you, Bob, and everyone else. Rock on.
Have a good one, everyone.